Hey, I'm Taryn Nugent with Adventurers Respite, and I'm here because I found this adorable crochet dragon pattern online for free, and I thought that I just had to try it, and I'm super excited about it, but I started it, and I got the idea for this video as my very first crochet video to go over this pattern with you guys and explain why, unfortunately, it does not create this dragon. So I started the pattern. And I think that unfortunately it was created by AI or something like that because it is not at all to scale on what it needs. So we see the body and tail. Body is worked from the tail up, integrating shape for the haunches. We see, and if you're not used to reading patterns, it's just R1 is row 1, row 2, row 3 through 5, all of that kind of thing. This, it shows when you're creating the haunches, when you're creating the curved tail, that to create the curve, the natural torsion will begin to curl the tail, continue stuffing the tail lightly. So what it says is that that pattern is supposed to make this tail with the little spiral you see all the way up to the haunches, all the way up to the neck, because there's no separate neck pattern. So that body pattern is meant to go from the tip of the tail to the top of the neck. Now what happens when you follow that pattern meticulously instead is this. So you get a very stubby little tail. I only got a curl because I wove in the end and pulled it tight to tie in and hide the knot inside. By the way, doing that, knotting your work and then hiding the knot inside, that's what makes it machine washable without having any of the hard plasticky bits from burning the ends. And without, weaving in 100 feet of tail to try and get it to not tangle. That will still eventually come out in the wash, so weaving in ends I'm not a big fan of anymore if you want machine washable. Machine washable, you unfortunately have to have a knot, so the best idea is to get the thing woven in and then tie it together and then hide that knot under the work and then snip it. And then it'll be machine washable. But yeah, so this little stubby tail, little ball of a body, no neck. That's what the pattern creates. So I thought, okay, well, it's not the exact same, but maybe it's because of the material. It's definitely missing stitches though, because even if that's metal that she's working with, because there are some metallic yarns that kind of feel a little more like string, like wire, um, it still wouldn't make that many. This has so many more rows in it. This tail on its own has so many more rows than this tail. I probably have to triple the length of it to be able to. And also it would need to start a lot smaller than the 4 single crochet stitches that it has you do in the magic ring, which I'll be telling you how to do the magic ring and all of that later as well. Those will be different instructional videos. But in this, we're just analyzing this pattern and trying to get through all of that. So after the body and tail, it tells you how to do the head. And it says it's worked from the nose up. I did this, and it's definitely not worked from the nose up because you start with 6 single crochets in a magic ring. That on its own may be okay. Not when it immediately has you increasing to 12, 18, and 24, because that is a fat nose. So we go back up, we see this is a small nose. This is a little snout. And if it's worked from the nose up, it should probably be like 4 single crochets, a few rows, and then it'll start increasing to be this cute little dewdrop tear-shaped head of a dragon. What you get instead when you follow the pattern is this. With no nose, it decreases to a flat little stub. And now I could add a nose right here, but I'm not going to, because what I do plan to do is to finish this pattern exactly as it is written so that there's no confusion about what this free pattern actually is making. And so I'm going to put it all together, wings and toes and everything. I'm going to even do the detail work, and it's going to be kind of like an episode of Nailed It. It's not going to be that dragon. But let's go on to the wings. Scrolling down to the wings portion, rows 1 through 5, only 5 rows. You can see here too, it doesn't match up already. It shows these pictures are to help you when you're following. This row 1, that's like 3 rows already, not 1 row in that picture. And then row 3, this is like 6 rows. So already we're beyond the pattern. and it's actually different because it doesn't have the thickness of this one. So anyway, I'm pretty sure, unfortunately, this may have been AI created, and that may be why there's so many discrepancies. But we're going to figure out how to actually make this and create the real dragon and the real pattern and release that at the end. Not the end of this video, but it's going to be a process. We're going to learn it together. So you can see row 5, if we follow the pictures and we follow this, is supposed to look like this. It doesn't, what I did doesn't even look like this. When you follow this pattern, you get this wing. You get this little wing. I haven't woven in the tails yet, so you can see that is not anything like those. And it's definitely not like these gorgeous lacy patterns that have the cute little arches in it. We have a different technique for that. I will show you guys that. It has this beautiful indent here for where the wing attaches. The indent we have is right here, this little guy, just this little one. And so if it attaches to the body like that, it's going to be like that, sad little wing. And it's, you know, just flops over because it has no structure. So this is something we probably will also need a little wire for to be able to really make it a gorgeous ornament at the end for a real pattern. So it's not going to be just yarn, especially if you are using real yarn instead of what I'm guessing, if we're giving the benefit of the doubt again, what I'm guessing is metal, like wire work that I've seen some gorgeous crochet projects on. So kudos to the people who do work with that. Legs, we have to make 4. This is what really inspired me to stop and make a video, because I was going to put everything together and just show what the picture is of what it's supposed to create, and like nailed it. What I actually created out of the pattern, and no. Because some things it's easier to see than to just be told it. So for these feet, it's only 5 rows. It is so, so tiny. This on its own, this little row 2 through 4 it shows in the picture, this is 12 rows or more probably. And this round all around is probably 18 stitches at least, maybe 24. We're only doing 5 single crochets for row 2, 3, and 4, 3 rows. We're going to do a single crochet magic circle of 5 and then give it 3 rows. And it's supposed to look like this? No, no, it's not. What you get is this little lizard toe. This little lizard toe. That's it. And so we're going to have, I mean, it's going to be cute. It's going to be really silly. It's going to be a little dopey, but it's not going to be a dragon. This is going to be a sad dragon. It's going to be a little baby dragon. So I made 2 of those, and I wanted to record making a 3rd one just so you can see how it works up. So here's the part where I can teach you the magic circle, although you'll find a lot of videos online, and honestly, if you just Google or YouTube how to do single crochet, how to do double crochet, how to do a magic ring, you'll get a lot of videos, a lot of different people explaining the basics, and you can pick your favorite person who has your best favorite explanation, whatever. I'm going to cut this because part of it had frayed from a factory knot that would not pull out. So now I'm going to start with a non-frayed piece of yarn. Now what you do for the circle, you create a circle in the air. So you already create a loop. You got your little loop here. And I always do it the wrong way first, where my thread is in front of the circle. So I got to put it back so that way, when I pinch this together and I go through the circle and I pull this through, it's actually going to create a knot. Versus if you have it in front of it and you try and just pull it through, it just twists and then pulls right off. So you're not going to create a knot that way. You got to have it behind it. And then you can watch me struggle. So I pinch at the X where you've created the loop, go through the loop, pull a thing through, and just create a little knot. This isn't even a chain or a stitch. It's just your knot to close the loop. So now we've got a circle to work in. This is the magic circle. This is the magic. So I'm going to pull this tight till I get the size of loop I want for my first single crochet. And we're going to just go under, loop over, pull through, and do a single crochet, just like that. Now again, there are going to be better videos with better zoom ins that can show you how to do a single crochet, but I'll try again. You go through, you loop over, you go through, you loop over, you pull through, and then single crochet is this. So my video, my recording is not meant to capture all this tiny detail. I can do that in a different one for you guys, but for now, it's just this. Also, Adventurers Respite will be doing classes in person and providing materials, so we will have a small cost associated with it because of that, but Adventurers Respite will be having in-person classes, and this can be a lot easier when you're in person to learn. So now we've got 3 single crochets on the loop. I'm just going to go speed through this. We get 2 more. And then I like to, once I have the amount of chains needed on a magic circle, I like to pull the tail just a little bit, not enough to actually close the loop, because if you close the loop, it tightens the very first stitch you did, and then it's a really big pain to poke through. So instead, I go and I find the first stitch and I make my first single crochet without pulling the tail completely tight, so that way it's easier to work in. And then after I've done my first like 3 stitches, then I can go back and finish pulling the tail completely tight to close the circle. And that's why it's called a magic circle, is that then you don't have that little ring that happens when you just crochet 2 and then crochet a bunch of single crochets in those 2 stitches to make a circle. It's a lot better to do the magic circle. People will talk about their magic circles coming apart. That's because you didn't weave the end in afterwards. So when I finish my first row, I actually use the magic circle tail to loop over with my work, and I work it in at least 1 stitch, if not 2. Then I leave it. It stays as a tail the rest of the time to weave in later, but that way it's knotted, and that perfect circle will not come undone later because you work it into your work. So we've got the first stitch. We got to go through the second and the third, the fourth, and the fifth. And I also do not recommend using black tiny yarn for your first project. It is very hard to see. If you are just starting out, you should use a thicker yarn and you should use a bright yarn so you can really differentiate between the bumps and learn how to actually count your crochet, because as is, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've been doing this a while. I can barely count where the 5 stitches are. It's very hard to work with black, purple, navy, any dark yarn that starts to blend into itself. That makes it very difficult to count your stitches. Same thing with fuzzy yarn. I don't recommend fuzzy yarn until you are very comfortable with how it feels, and how, like, you start to develop a feeling for, I'm in the right stitch, I'm in the wrong stitch. I've spliced the yarn, I've kept the yarn whole. Until you've developed that, don't do fuzzy yarn. It's super annoying and it will splice on you, which means you'll separate the threads by accident. It'll create a big ugly mess and it'll just be upsetting. So highly recommend staying away from that until later, when you've developed some sense of this is what doing a correct stitch feels like. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the next 3 rows, and then I'll show you why this pattern doesn't work at all. Okay, we've worked up the 3 rows of 5, and you can see it's very tiny, and there's not really an opening in the top like there is in the pictures. So in this pattern here, you can see this is a very open leg. You could fit a pinky in it probably. Cannot fit a pinky in. This is super tiny, which is why you don't need to stuff it. For those over there that they have, it says do not stuff. That's incorrect. For those kinds of legs, you do stuff them because otherwise they'll just squish right down and it's not going to be super fun. Like it's not going to keep it warm. Now for the toes are the most hilarious part, and they're why I wanted to show this video, because you're not doing what it shows over here where you're having this like skeletal frame you're creating for it, where you do some double crochets or triple crochets to try and get these cute little triangular stabbies for the feet. No, instead, you are doing exactly this with the pattern. It has you chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, and it's not having you do a structural anything. It's not having you do single crochet or anything. It's having you do a slip stitch. So we're going to slip stitch into the second chain from the hook. So no looping over or anything, just pull right through. And then again, a slip stitch into the next one. And finally, a slip stitch into the last single crochet you did on those rows of 5. So this one little single crochet is holding now one toe, one tiny toe. You can see teeny tiny toe. And now we do that again because it does not tell us to move on to another space. It just says chain 3, slip stitch in the second chain from the hook, slip stitch in the next chain, slip stitch into the same single crochet stitch on the foot 3 times. 3x, 3 times. No further instruction. There's no doing a single crochet in the next single crochet and then doing a 3 chain to have it be 3 separate toes or anything like that. No, we're just going again in the same stitch, chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, and again we slip stitch. And again we slip stitch. And again into that original single crochet that we've already done 1 toe in, just a slip stitch. So looping right through, pulling tight, flattening the toe out so you can see now we have 2 little toes. And then 3 times. So here's the third one. 1, 2, 3 chains, slip stitch. Oops, okay, re-loop that. Don't want to lose your place. Slip stitch, second slip stitch, right through there. Sometimes it is difficult to get your hook through, so you want to make sure when you're making chains that you leave enough space that you're not clamping down on the tension, so you have enough room to actually put your hook through when you come back to work that stitch. And then final slip stitch into that original toe spot. So that's 3 toes crocheted in one little space. And that is all it wants you to do. So it doesn't even tell you to, it says fasten off, leaving a long tail for sewing, but it does not say to sew together the top or anything like that. So we're snipping this off. We're pulling it through. And this is the final product. Please compare to the screen share. It is nothing like those pointy toes. We've got a 3-leaf clover here for little lizard toes. So once that's done, I loop this, I weave it through. And how I weave it through, I put it through the little hole in the toes. And then I go on the back end and I make sure that I don't pull it through more than one space at a time. I make sure it's close by for the chain, because if you try and weave it from one location over like 15, and you don't have good tension yet, you haven't figured that out yet, then you can accidentally pull your work down and just fold your work over by virtue of the string pulling. So like this, if I weave it down, it's less likely to do that, but also then I can make sure there's zero tension when I get close enough to the tail that I'm actually going to use for sewing. And so then I can create a little knot, which I have to be careful again on the amount of tension I'm using, because when you create that knot, it's going to still pull on this tail, and this tail's still connected to these 3 toes. So if I pull on that too much, see, the toes deflate. So I got to pull the toes back up, flatten them out, and then very carefully create my knot with the original tail, and it's going to be a knot that's in a place that's going to be hidden when you actually sew the foot onto the body. So that's why I'm comfortable just putting a normal knot on it and snipping it and going from there. And for a knot, it's just like you tie your shoes together, just loop it around, but then you do that twice. You don't do bunny ears. You just loop around, pull through, like the first stage of tying your shoe, but twice. And that is a simple tiny knot. And especially with the black yarn, and especially once the foot is attached to the body, you're not going to see any of that. It's going to be sewn in. It's going to be a little hand or a foot. So I'm going to make one more of these, and then the only thing left are the head frills, the back spikes, and assembling it. So once I'm done with that, I will show the finished product, and that'll be in a different video. Once the finished product happens, I'll show that, and we'll start going through the pattern in earnest. In earnest meaning I'm going to make it actually look like this dragon, or attempt to. So we'll see how that goes.